Hello, everyone, and welcome to 4C Markets. My name is Alejandro Ramirez Nunes, and I have my co-host Serhii on the line. Serhii.
Hello, everybody. Today we are going to have pretty interesting talk, and we will talk about how volume affects the price and what actually you can see on the volume charts. And Alejandro will help us to interpret this correctly. Yes, Alejandro?
Okay, so yeah, volume is such an interesting topic because a lot of people don't really talk about it. But when you're analyzing your financial reports and you start seeing that there's suddenly one drop off that you were not aware of, this could just destroy all your profitability, especially if it's something that you were expecting to go in one particular direction, but it actually like flips and goes into another direction. And so what we need to do is we need to try to analyze a lot of vectors within what's happening in the market other than, fundamentals and price movements. We also need to try to understand something known as like the herd psychology. Hmm. So what does that mean? That basically means that when people start seeing a particular trend, especially those who are trying to capture short earnings, they're either going to try to dive in and right away, or they're going to try to capture the loss before the inflection point. The inflection point is either the lower bottom of the trend or the highest peak of the trend, right? But then, can you really predict these things? And actually, to a certain degree, you can, you know? So we're going to investigate a few trends today. And we're going to start with one called LRN because this one caught me by surprise to an extent. I mean, I saw a few things coming, but back in October when I was looking at this, when it actually did happen, I was not really looking at how quickly it was going to deteriorate. So I'm going to share my screen now. This is LRN, and this is the area that we're discussing. So I'm going to change this to a line bar just to make it easier to see. So if you notice here, there was this huge drop that happened between Tuesday and Wednesday, October 28 to October 29, right? So the stock lost 50% of its value. So then you're thinking like, well,
Oh,
was
is
this
it
something
like
that was
in
happening?
one day, correct?
Yeah, this is in one day. It just like dropped by 50%. So imagine like this must have been millions of dollars that were lost. And as you see here, there's like a steady growth over time. But then what happened here is that the price went all the way down to its previous price from October of 24. Now it is October of 25 and the price just dropped. So anyone who invested in the stock between this date and this date lost all their earnings. Anyone who invested here had the worst loss. So anyone who invested at like 169. So let's say that you're an investor and you're looking at putting money into LRN. And then all of a sudden you start to see like, okay, this is growing and is very healthy. What can I see about this? Well, if you notice here, there's like an earnings report where it says that there was a negative surprise by 1.64. So it didn't quite make it to the estimates. And then we see another one here, and there was another surprise, but the stock went up in price anyways, right? Like people were not faced by what was happening. So then what happened in October? Well, if we look at the S&P 500, which is, our benchmark, if we see right around October here, we'll start to notice a similar pattern, like prices are going up as you see here, right? And then here they continue to go up, and then here they start to shrink. And we'll see here there's a massive sell-off. So there was just massive sell-offs happening all over the market. So here, when we got the earnings called on this one, even though it was a surprise and it was positive, it still caused the sell-off. So then you ask yourself, okay, what happened? And was there anything that could have warned us? So this is when your candles become very important, when you can actually make sense out of your candles. Okay. So notice here, there was compared to like everyday trading, this trade happened here where there was a move of about or nearly like 3 million shares. And you notice that like on the right side of my screen, like right bottom, I don't want to move my mouse because I'll lose what I'm showing. But if you notice on the right bottom side, you'll notice that compared to every other day where you end up with like 500,000 shares or maybe close to 1 million, if you look here, this got like 3.1 million shares that were sold. But if you notice on this candle, there's very little price movement. That
So
basically means
price
that someone is
action
trying to,
is was really weak, correct?
yeah, it just means that like people are trying to get rid of the stock, right? Someone's saying like, I'm gonna sell this off 3 million of them right before earnings call. And you're like, okay, that's kind of interesting. And then you continue to see this pattern here, very, very small sales, but that basically means somebody's watching this. Somebody else saw
Yeah,
this and
apparently
they're like,
these
oh,
people knew something pretty interesting about
well,
the stock.
I think this person here on October 20th, they knew something. These people here, they saw that the price was discounted. So maybe this was an automatic algorithm that says if the price for the stock reaches this, it's selling at a discount now. And they had, a lot of faith. They were looking and they were saying like, okay, we had bad news and the stock went up in price. So now good news will probably make the stock go up in price even higher. But it actually had the opposite effect. You had positive news here, surprise, 7.57 in the positive on the revenue, but you had a sell-off anyways. And this is your telltale sign right here. When you see something like this, where you see a very large spike in sales and there's no real price movement, that means that somebody's just trying to like basically exchange hands. Any other time that you see a large movement in volume, like volume is participation, right? There should be a price movement. But if you see that there is large volume and very little participation, then you can expect that this will be followed by very large move with large participation later. Now, whether it's going to be positive or negative is really going to depend on what's been happening. For me, when I was looking at this stock back in October, and I was checking the candles, and I was looking to see what was happening. For me, this particular pass here was just very interesting. I was like, how come there was such a large volume, but there's no price movement? So at that point, I was like, okay, I'm gonna take the money that I made, which was not as much as I thought I would be making because I entered about here, right? So I was actually waiting for it to go up. Here on this one, I sold some of the shares that I was having because I was looking at the volume, but I didn't sell everything. I just try to cut my losses. And then the automatic algorithms that I have in place help trigger a few sales, and this is what caused me to start watching this particular stock. Because here, when I started seeing this, from here the price was approximately 161, and then it dropped to 158. So this, trigger a bell more so because there was like not a lot of volume, right? I was like, okay, that's kind of interesting. Like, how come this happened? But I was looking that it was like short from a previous peak of 169, and then the price is just dropping. So now I know that like this is triggering notifications that tell me, hey, you gotta pay attention to this. So I wasn't really sure what was gonna happen. So I just sold some of the shares that I had in this particular investment. And then when this one happened, I got out, right? Because I saw the candle here and I was like, okay, look at all this volume that just sold with zero movement. Somebody's trying to get rid of this stock. So I did the same. I was like, this is the invisible hand of the market telling me that it's time to leave this stock. So I got out of it. And then sure enough, here you had a huge drop where the value of the stock dropped by 50%. So what's the lesson? You have to keep your notifications on to give you information about what's happening with price, and don't rely only on news. You also have to rely on price movement, and volume is extremely important because it gives you participation. So you want to make sure that you're watching all these things, because anyone who was here and they had ownership that they purchased here on October 28th lost their shirt on October 29th. So this is why it's very important to keep tabs on participation and price movement besides fundamentals.
Yes, this is really interesting because on the other side, if you look, for example, to crypto, so there are a lot of these moves that happen constantly, but at the same time, there is no fundamentals that you can look at. And financial markets, anything can happen overnight. Like
Yeah.
this is short. And Alejandro, is it like still possible to exit during these periods from the like normal markets? Because
Uh,
crypto is trading like 24 hours per day, so you can buy
yeah.
anytime and sell
So
anytime.
I mean, yeah, yes and no, right? Like, let's say that you are trading on an international market with a stock that is directly correlated to another stock. So then you could use the information to try to get out. You also have after hours trading, which means you can place the orders after hours, but they will not execute until the next day when the market opens. So that means that if you start to see something like this after hours, you can place your order, but it's not going to execute until the best price that you can get the next day when the market opens. So that means that maybe you wouldn't lose all the money that you had here, right? Maybe like you would only drop on the way. But if this is like the market opening bell and then your order execute, you're probably gonna be somewhere around here. You may lose even a little bit more money. And then notice here the price started to go up a bit more. This is probably because, just like standard price fluctuations. But then these were your late reactors. Like all of these other ones here who start see all this and they didn't act upon it. These people here, they were like, oh, okay, I gotta sell my stuff. So then they get here and they continue to sell, and then everyone else keeps on selling after this, right? Now,
Mm-hmm.
the stock continues to like perform, and then as you continue to go up, you see here, although this is like trying to jump, notice how the price is going up again. So people actually believe in this company. And then now there's another earnings call coming, and this is going to be on Tuesday, May 5th. So on this day, we will know. But based on what's happening here, my the rules that I have in place do not allow me to get into the stock right now. I need to wait to see what happens in this earnings call before I take another chance on LRN. Right now with LRN and the amount of time that I've held it, I haven't really lost much, but I also have not gained as much as I made on other investments. So that's why for this particular one, I'm going to see what happens on this earnings call while I'm watching volume and price changes. And right now, this tells me anybody who entered here, right at the drop at $65, they're going to be pretty comfortable until earnings call. But they're going to have to watch what happens between April and May because the current war situation that we have right now, and then everything else that we're seeing in the market, things are extremely volatile. So my advice is keep an eye on the stock, have trail stop losses so that you don't lose your shirt, and then also make sure that you're watching the news. And as this gets closer to earnings call, keep an eye on price and volume compared to the broader market. This particular stock is followed by XLP. So if we were to follow XLP, which is consumer staples, then we'll be able to see how it's behaving, right? So this is a consumer stable price overall. So if we look to see what is happening, we can follow it to see if there is any correlation regarding what's happening with this particular stock and its underlying benchmark. So we can see if there's like sudden sell-offs that are expected, and if that's going to happen, if the broader market is going to be selling the stock, and we can see that based on news and selling points, then we know for sure that people are probably not going to hold to LRN. And that's how you quantify things to make your decisions.
This is really interesting. And by the way, what LRN is doing, like what this company is for.
They are a for-profit education company that provides online blended education programs, and it is an education management organization. So that's what they do. Nothing too special. They're in the education sector. You know, they have like 8,600 employees, and they are in Hernon, Virginia. Their revenue is 2.04 billion, and this is their CEO. So we can do a quick Google search to see what they do. When I was looking at investing into this, they seem to be performing better than other companies that were within the same sector. So that's why I wanted to put money on it. But I did watch it when I had first put money on it, because for me, this was a new investment. So I think I started putting money back in May. That's actually when I started looking at them because of this drop. And I was thinking like, okay, that's interesting. This company just dropped. Let's put a little bit of money on it and see where it goes. When I started to see this little mountains here, I was like, okay, I don't think I'm going to want to stick with them too much. And I was just, lucky that I didn't stick with them very long, because otherwise I would have suffered just like everyone else. So yeah, that's the lesson for the day. Pay attention, watch the news, and make sure that you don't stay too attached to a company.
Yeah, this is a good lesson to filter out this kind of companies. And this kind of
Definitely.
patterns, this can give you a hint.
Yeah, this can definitely give
Okay.
you a hint. And yeah, that is everything that we have for today. So thank you all for watching. We will see you all next week. And we leave you with this. Pay attention to the news and don't become sentimentally attached to a stock. If the numbers show you that it's time to get out, get out.
And if you see some strange activities, also get out.
All right. And we will see you next week. Talk to you all later. And if you like us, subscribe and please keep an eye for our next video. See you all next
And
week.
comment.
And comment.
See
Yes,
you all.
definitely comment. See you all. Bye.